All right, what's going on, guys? Got some sad news today, man. Looks like WNBA star Brittney Griner was sentenced to 9 years in Russia for drug smuggling.
Final verdict is 9 years of imprisonment of the 9 million rubles penalty in the penal colony. And she will serve her term from the day of the announcement of this verdict. And time when she was behind bars from the 18th of February 2022 will be included in the overall term.
This is crazy, man. Like, what kind of world are we living in where somebody can do 9 years for having some cannabis on them? Like, what? This is intense. So I'm reading a report from CNN. Came out today. Says American women's basketball star Brittney Griner was convicted of deliberately smuggling drugs into Russia and sentenced to 9 years of jail time today in a case that has raised concerns that she's being used as a political pawn in Russia's war against Ukraine. Says Judge Anna Soltnikova of the Khimki City Court delivered the sentence and fined Griner 1 million rubles, or about $16,400. She said the court took into account Griner's partial admission of guilt, remorse for the deed, state of health, and charitable activities. Prosecutors had asked that she be sentenced to 9.5 years in jail. This is insane. Like, first, they fined her $16,400. Like, she had less than a gram total of marijuana or of hashish oil. The verdict comes about 6 months after the 31-year-old was arrested at a Moscow airport and accused by Russian prosecutors of trying to smuggle less than 1 gram of cannabis oil in her luggage. The two-time U.S. Olympic basketball gold medalist pleaded guilty to drug charges last month and said she accidentally packed the drugs while in a hurry. I mean, this is crazy. It's clear she's being used as a pawn. There's a guy who was accused of espionage that the U.S. was trying to get back from Russia. They tried to initiate a deal where they would bring both Brittney Griner and this guy back, and Russia refused. They said that America was playing megaphone politics, basically trying to make a big mountain out of a molehill, to point the finger at Russia and say that Russia is just an absurd country, which it might be, but this doesn't help the cause for Brittney Griner and this other gentleman. Yeah, Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan trade needs to get over the line, even at cost of merchant of death. The U.S. must try to complete the exchange for detainees Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan following a difficult and drawn-out process, even at the cost of trading a dangerous arms dealer to secure their release, according to experts. Russia, in exchange for the release of Brittney Griner and Mr. Whelan, wants Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death, who is serving a 25-year sentence in the U.S. after being convicted of conspiracy to kill U.S. citizens and providing aid to a terrorist organization. It's unfortunate, but Brittney Griner is being caught up as a black woman in American politics, which is never a good thing for black people, has never been a good thing, because I'll just go ahead and say it. And Kanye said it. George Bush don't care about black people. If this was the daughter of a former American diplomat or statesman, all hell would have broken loose to secure their release. We would have probably bombed Russia at the expense of every life in America just to show that America doesn't play, but because it's a black woman, and black people aren't held in any kind of high esteem by this country. And you can debate me if you want in the comments. I don't care. There's plenty of history to show that you're wrong and I'm right. You know, we have no business over there. And whether Brittney Griner knew that she had cannabis oil on her, accidentally packed it. I believe I heard one report say that in the stress of packing and trying to get back over to the States, she accidentally, you know, forgot that she had it in her bag. I've heard all sorts of things. No matter what the case was, 9 years is not an appropriate punishment for having cannabis. There should be no punishment for having cannabis. If you're going to punish someone, that is definitely a case where you want to slap someone on the wrist. Literally, like, don't come over here again. Get on your flight and go home. Like, fine. But 9 years? So what we clearly see is that there is some behind the door diplomacy going on. It says the Kremlin threatened Tuesday to break off diplomatic relations with Washington if the U.S. declares Russia a sponsor of terrorism. So Russia is pissed off at the United States because we're funding the resistance of Ukraine against Russia. So we're effectively helping Ukraine fight the war against Russia, although we haven't officially declared war on Russia. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova called the proposed designation to label Russia a terrorist state naive and a violation of international law. The logical result of such a step becomes a break in diplomatic relations, and Washington finally risks crossing the point of no return. And by that, it's clear. War with Russia. What does war with Russia look like? Do we want to ask that question? It's obviously not going to be fun and games. Of course, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged the U.S. to adopt the designation. He's like, fucking, I don't care. Our country's already being battered and bruised and our population being decimated, our soldiers being slaughtered. So we don't care what other countries have to get into it. We're already in the shit. So of course he wants the United States to designate Russia as a terrorist state. The other crazy thing that I noticed is that the U.S. has put sanctions on Putin's reputed girlfriend. It looks like they're freezing the bank accounts of Putin's girlfriends and his daughters. This is how far the United States will go in order to send a message. Like, we'll freeze your bank accounts, we'll freeze your wife's bank accounts, we'll freeze your daughter's bank accounts. We're gonna freeze all your friends' bank accounts. Like, nobody's getting no money if they're connected with you. We're gonna push and push and push so far until fucking Putin just says, fuck it, release the nukes. And I mean, nobody wants that to happen. Like, I won't be making YouTube videos no more. You won't be watching YouTube videos no more. You know, the whole world will be a different place. But this is where we are. And it sucks. If you're Brittney Griner and you're in a Russian prison away from your family, can't play basketball anymore, you're 31 years old, like, you're probably thinking, I would never smoke cannabis again. Ever. You know, it's so stupid. I know for a fact, you know, the LGBT community, I haven't heard them raise a finger about this. You know, everybody's up in arms over every other cause, gay marriage and transgender rights and all of this stuff. Everybody's up in arms over. But when it comes to somebody from the LGBTQ plus community undergoing such intense mistreatment and abuse at the hands of both her own government and a foreign government, nobody's saying anything. So I'm just like, dude, does that community really value their own? Are they really concerned with the life and the value that Brittney Griner adds to their community? I think it's hypocritical. You should have seen every major leader within that community group come out and fight for her. But again, this is what Dave Chappelle talked about when he drew the line between racists who identify as LGBTQ and LGBTQ people who are also still discriminated against for their race. Just because somebody, it's like all gay people aren't anti-racist, even though a lot of gay people they'll conflate their struggle with the black struggle and say that what's the difference between being black and being gay? Well, the difference is there are a lot of gay people that are racist against black people and liberal, and they hate black people. So this is one of those screaming situations where it's like, who can you trust? So Brittney Griner, I really hope that you get out soon. You do not deserve this. This is horrid, horrible treatment. The United States should have had you back. You know, of course, there are political experts who will say, yeah, but we can't risk our national security and our national sovereignty for the release of one person. You know, we still have Victor Bout, who's known as the Merchant of Death, in U.S. prison, and it's not that easy. I get it. Makes sense. And so these things can be complicated. I understand that. But I do think that there would have been much more political and media attention had this been the daughter of a U.S. president. You know, if this was like George Bush's daughter or Bill Clinton's daughter, Chelsea Clinton, who had, you know, had some hashish oil and was over in Russia, this shit would not have flown any kind of way. There would have been so much, like, fuck a war in Ukraine. There would have been so much heat on Russia to release this person, and we probably would have given back Victor Bout. We probably would have told Russia, y'all can have whatever you want, because what we're risking now is the image of America. You know, and we wouldn't be talking about labeling Russia as a terrorist state, because America obviously doesn't deal with terrorists. That's what they say. Like, they don't negotiate with terrorists, even though they do. But, you know, you just start to see all the contradictions and all of the lies and the posturing with situations like this. So anyway, tell me your comments. Talked about a lot today. Talked about Russia being labeled as a terrorist state by America. We talked about the Brittney Griner situation. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And I will see you next time. Peace.